morning, ladies and gentlemen, David here, and welcome back to another video. And this one is going to spark discussion, or at least that's what I'm hoping for, because clearly ATLUS isn't ready to talk about Persona 6, or they don't want to talk about Persona 6 now, so let's do it ourselves, right? Well, we're going to start discussion and speculation about Persona 6, and the first thing that I do want to talk about is what if? What if Persona 6 had a female protagonist? I know there has been rumors of like Persona 6 having dual protagonists, two protagonists, a male and female protagonist. Or there's even people saying like, hey, you can choose which gender you want to have and everything. So I want to talk about that. To me, when you look at previous Persona entries and their protagonists, it's fair and it's understandable for people to ask for a female main character. Naoya in Persona 1, Tatsuya, Persona 2, there's Maya, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment as well. You have Persona 3 with Makoto, Yuki, main character. Of course, you have Kotone, FMC in the portable version of the game. You have Yu Narukami in Persona 4, and you have Joker Ren in Persona 5. Now, they'll come at me with the canon names and everything. You get what I'm saying. So, we don't really have, at least in modern entries, a real female protagonist. People want that. I understand. There's, of course, the Persona 3 Reload debacle, which to me is in a whole different discussion in and of itself, because Kotone isn't the protagonist of Persona 3. Persona 3 is Makoto. FMC in Portable is a character for a portable version of the game. She was kind of like added in afterwards. Does it work well? Yes, it does. But it's not as canon, in my opinion, as Makoto, which I think most people would agree, since you cannot play as FMC in other versions of Persona 3, but portable. So what about Persona 6? I mean, I'm not sure what to expect from ATLUS and what to predict, but one thing's for sure, there is going to be impacts if you decide to have a female protagonist, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. That and my opinion on the subject as well. So let me ask you guys, before we get into the deep swing of things, what do you want to see from Persona 6 as far as a protagonist goes? How would you react if Persona 6 had a female protagonist? Let's discuss. Let's stay civil too. I know this is a topic of discussion that people are invested in, that people are taking very seriously. Stay civil, please. Alright, so the one thing that I want to read off before we start things off is a recent interview from Mr. Kazuhito Wada at ATLUS, Persona series producer. He was interviewed by Famitsu, and I have here a translation from Siliconera, which you can read the whole article. The source is, as always with my videos, in the video description, so check that out if you're interested. But I want to read one quote in particular, because during a Q&A section of that interview by Famitsu and Mr. Wada, he was asked about the past and present of the Persona series, but most specifically, how much freedom he has during the planning stage regarding the main protagonist in each Persona game, as well as what was the reason for deciding to make a cast of mainly students and a male character for the protagonist for the latest entries in the series. Quote, in response, Wada said that games in the Persona series are coming-of-age stories focused on growing up, and the most effective setting for those kinds of stories are of students on the verge of entering adulthood. Wada added that student life is almost universal, common experience, and people can easily identify themselves with it. As for the gender of the protagonist, Wada said that the choice is related to maturity and mental age. For high school students of similar ages, it seems like female students tend to have a higher mental age than male students, Wada continued. To better depict the themes of growth, the developers decided that a male student as the protagonist would fit better. However, Wada insisted that the team doesn't think that adults or women as protagonists aren't a possibility to consider. Quote, so I definitely wanted to put this out, especially since this article is a month old, so it's recent information from the man himself at P Studio, Wada. He's the series producer, so he definitely has a saying in what's going to happen next. Now, obviously, we're speculating about something that has already been decided. Persona 6 has been in development for 6 years minimum, meaning that they already have a gender for their protagonist, 1000%, okay? The game's probably playable somewhere right now, so we're just speculating for fun. When I read this, I'm thinking, okay, your reasons for a male student protagonist are very I understand. Probably a good response to give in an interview, but they're very meh. You can certainly change that in the future if you want to, because that's the real question that we have to ask ourselves. Do they want to do this or not? Clearly, he says it himself at the end. The theme doesn't think that adults or women as protagonists aren't a possibility to consider. Having both protagonists, which is the main rumor going around for Persona 6, makes a lot of sense to me. If you have one female protagonist only, I don't think it would be that bad, y'all. And I think this would probably make some of y'all react. But hear me out for a second before you type in the comments. Twitter, social medias, people that are extremely invested in gaming, they talk about it online. On Twitter, they write a lot of text, a lot of posts online about their games and the decisions that the teams are making. Or people like me who make videos online speculating about games. We are a very, very, very large minority. So would Twitter react if ATLUS was to decide to, hey, let's do a female protagonist in Persona 6 with no options for a male? Would Twitter react? Yes. Would they cry about it? Yes. Would there be outrage on Twitter? Yes. Yes, 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 yes to all those questions. But at the end of the day, you're the large majority, man. So I think if ATLUS wants to do it, they're just going to do it. They are just going to do it. I think there's going to be an impact in that sense, but regardless of what people have to say on social medias, online and everything, I think it would be a refreshing change to have a FMC. I think it would be interesting as far as like social links, confidence, and the romance options that you have. I think it would make the game a little more interesting. Are they ready to do same-sex romance in Persona? That's another thing that would be extremely controversial if they decide to do that. Now, hear me out. I'm an open-minded person. They can do whatever they want. I don't care. I'm going to be playing the game no matter what decision they try to do. Options are better, in my opinion, so I just want as many options as possible. But if they have a female main character, it's just going to feel refreshing. If you have a male protagonist and a female protagonist in the same game that are playable, both of them are playable, you must play as both. Like, trying to think of a game, and the one example that comes to mind is not a good example because there's two mans are playable, but Yakuza 0, for example, you switch from Kazuma Kiryu to Goro Majima as you play the game. It works well. That's what I think they are going to do with Persona 6, but with a male protagonist and a female protagonist. That way you can please everyone, and that way you can have depth with two characters. I know some of y'all are going to reply by saying, hey, that doesn't make as much sense. You're not going to be as invested in the character and everything. In a gameplay sense, it would be very interesting for Persona 6 to have two protagonists. Imagine the possibilities. Your stats, your, like, you know, you increase your stats when you play Persona, your social stats. You increase your social links. Would you have that with both characters? Would it be feasible for the stats and the social links of both of your characters to be one? To be one stat, one social links, one progression system, basically? I don't know how they could do this, but the one thing's for sure, if they do that, there is a ton of potential gameplay-wise. I am indeed a little bit scared about character development and everything. How are they going to do this? But again, the example that I gave is interesting, because if you look at a Yakuza 0, the writing in this game is potentially the closest thing to perfection that I've experienced in a game. So it's certainly possible in a story sense, in a writing sense, to have two protagonists and for it to make a ton of sense. There's also other games that it's problematic that you have multiple characters. I'm going to use Yakuza again since we're on the topic. In Yakuza 5, you have a bunch of protagonists, and it lowered my score. It lowered my enjoyment of Yakuza 5 because of that. So it really depends on how you do it. If they do it the right way, which I believe the Persona team would do it correctly, if they were to do that, I think it's interesting. Would they do a female main character only? I wouldn't mind. I don't think they're ready to do that. I think they are not ready to do that. Reading the articles, reading the interviews, I think they doubt fans' receptions Even though, as I said, in my opinion, it's all the minority that would be outraged, I think they're scared about that. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think on the matter. So what if Persona 6 had a female protagonist? What would be the repercussions of that? How would they make that work? How would this work in a gameplay sense? Drop your comments. I am definitely going to be reading the comment section for this one because it's a topic that I've had on my list of video ideas for a while now. And I think it's a very interesting topic to speculate about. And if you want to have more of these styles of Persona 6 ideas, theories type of videos, discussions, just drop a comment and let me know because I think they're fun to make. So I might make more if you guys like them. Thank you so much for watching. You have a good week, y'all. Bye.